Welcome to another episode of Cognitive Dissidents. This is Monica Perez of the Monica Perez Show.
This is Hoodaway from Geopolitics and Empire.
And it's Mike from Parallel Systems.
We have a lot to talk about today, so let's hit the ground running. All right, so I'm in America. I'm going to start with what's been top of the news is ICE raids in Minnesota. And I have a laundry list of weird things, what was the agenda items, and kind of bigger picture agenda items that fold into the technate. And that's going to fold into a lot of other topics that we're talking about today. So with your permission, guys, I'm just going to get right into it. All right. So a while back, not that long ago, there was some news out of Minnesota, really surprising to me. I thought, wow, this sounds like corruption, like a real expose. And in fact, it might be because the governor, Tim Walz, who was Kamala Harris's VP candidate, supposed to be a really nice guy, whatever, and I think Ilhan Omar were involved in some corruption involving the Somali community there. Walz said he wasn't going to run again for governor, but the investigation looked like it was going to heat up. And before you know it, ICE heads in there, has a project in Minneapolis, starts killing people, and makes a huge ham-handed, unbelievably nightmare debacle. And Tim Walz is on TV saying, being a hero, standing up against the Fed, speaking truth to power. So just first pass, I would say there's a lot of political motivation there. I think ICE going into LA and violating posse comitatus and stuff was giving Gavin Newsom a core issue for his campaign for president. I think it's doing it in a very ham-handed way, is making Democrats very strong coming up in this midterm election. And while they're going to have to jettison Walz as governor of Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, who's a very powerful senator, she wants the job and she's leading. So they will keep Minnesota blue. Oh, and here's something funny, and I dubbed it the trialectic. So the corruption scandal gave rise to the ham-handed ICE thing. And now the newspaper is reporting that Trump is focusing on corruption, alleged corruption in Minnesota, to distract from the ICE debacle. So that blew my mind because it's the opposite, actually. So that completely discredits the corruption investigation. And I just think that was really amazing demonstration of how a PSYOP can be used for purely political purposes. But there are a lot of other agendas, too. Anyway, any reactions to that?
Mike,
well,
I'm curious, Mike is a foreigner looking from the outside. What does he think of what's happening in America?
Oh, you're muted.
You're unmute. Oh, that was a rookie mistake, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've switched off from a lot of it because I don't think the narratives are correct. The only article that I really bothered to read on it was the Financial Times article, and I immediately thought, this is not adding up quite so much. The names were very interesting. So there were good, and guess who they chose in this article to interview from the law enforcement? It was somebody called Christ.
Oh my goodness.
So we had pretty good and Christ. I was like, yeah, based just on this article, and that's the depth of my research, guys, this is looking a little bit sloppy. And obviously, we can easily come up with reasons as to why this would be happening. I think it will certainly be circled back round to something like, well, we need digital IDs to keep track of these migrants, and to protect you, we need police with surveillance because we need to demand that now, which is what Larry Ellison was talking about. Remember, Larry Ellison was speaking at this conference saying all police officers one day will wear one of our devices. And what they do is they kit them out with a camera on the front and they say, we watch the police. So the police are watching you, but then we watch the police. And if the police officer goes to the toilet, we tell them we switch off the camera, but we really don't. He's actually on record as saying this. So I think that's probably the goal as well, is just to up the surveillance, not just of the populace, but the police too. And all of that narrative can easily be folded into the ICE stuff.
That's very interesting about the police observation. And I have to say the pretty good thing, I kept thinking in my head, I was reminded, because there are arguments on both sides. So do you really think that open borders in a welfare state in a world of 7 billion people with immense wealth disparity is feasible? No. Do you really want ICE agents to come, beat little old ladies to death? No. So there's bad and good people on both sides, which is like Trump's famous line. And I thought, wait a second, there are only good people on one side, and they're pretty good. So I realized how ridiculous that was. But your point about the police and watching the police, obviously surveillance, biometrics, both going to fold into any of these kind of disputes, especially immigration. One thing was there was a signal channel somehow came to light that maybe was plotting subversive, rebellious activity. So maybe an anti-encryption thing might emerge from it. But this interplay between the federal, the state, the local authorities, the people, posse comitatus, the limits of how those powers are balanced. I think they want to re-engineer all of that. And you have states making one-off rules, and now Congress is probably preparing, it's probably already written, to make a really comprehensive legislation on how these things should be managed, which of course means the feds are dictating it. They'll give crumbs to the states, but that is part of the agenda. That's a good one.
And maybe to jump on that, I think, look, if we're going to the regional technate, they need a nationalized United States, federalized. So they got to break down the decentralization to make a unified, united federal states. And then we get to the regional technate. And I'm going to share my screen because I had a bunch of stuff on that here. You can see my screen, right? So, yes, you can see my screen?
Yes.
So just real quick, John Whitehead, who's amazing, he just published today, Lockdown, Rounded Up, Warehouse, The Rise of America's Concentration Camps. And he says, Hannah Arendt's Origins of Totalitarianism warned that concentration camps were not built primarily for criminals. They were built to imprison the innocent. People were rendered criminal by the state simply for who they were or what they believed, because now they're building, with the pretext of ICE and DHS and CBP, they're building out warehouses across the U.S. And he says that these camps function as labs for total domination, where guilt was irrelevant and innocence offered no protection. Individuals were stripped of rights. And he says that, make no mistake, these are concentration camps in their earliest forms, rebranded and revived for a new age. And then here's just a sneak peek into my paid sub analysis, and I just published yesterday. And you just look at the trends. For me, basically, they're building the police state right before our eyes. They are building the police state. They're doing away with the Constitution. They're building out the entire apparatus, DHS, CBP, ICE, you name it. It's all heavily militarized. I even call it Mexicanized. Like what I'm seeing in the U.S. is what I see in Mexico now. Massed military everywhere. And so, you've got, just look at the trend. So these are a map of the warehouses: Utah, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Minnesota, Michigan, Indiana, all over the place. They're building out these warehouses. And then we've got clips. Did I post? I don't know if I posted it on this one. No, that was last week. I posted a clip where DHS or ICE guy was telling an American citizen, "You're a domestic extremist. We're filming you. You are a domestic extremist." You've got a clip here of, I won't play I'm playing the video footage for people watching, but it's masked ICE agents in an unmarked car stopping an American and pulling out guns. Like, this is the kind of stuff you see cartels do in Mexico. It's crazy. But then you put all these trends together. They're giving access in Minnesota, ICE access to military bases. They're building warehouses. They're calling us domestic terrorists. They're breaking into businesses. Here's a conversation from a business. "You guys broke the effing window," said the business owner. "Yes, we did," an agent responds. "You guys don't have an effing warrant." "We don't need one." They tried to enter into the Ecuador consulate in America, which is illegal. Eric Prince is telling Bannon he wants to use DHS debanking against illegals, which they're already doing against me, like U.S. citizens, which proves that it's a lie. It's a ruse. You're bringing in, it's all a ruse to bring in this totalitarian democracy. I mean, you guys are liars. It's not for illegals. You're already doing it to us citizens. So if you're building the warehouses for illegals, you're going to use it for us citizens. And then, Ron Unz comments says, he says, given all these developments, it's possible we might one day see squads of masked ICE agents snatching American citizens off their streets because they had posted a tweet critical of Israel or, whatever. And then Todd Miller, who I've interviewed, also says that this has been a long time coming, this buildup of DHS, ICE, CBP. They used to have 4,000 agents. Now they're 21,000. And then now what they're doing on the border, he says these zones of exclusion have served as proving grounds for tactics and technology that can be extended to the rest of the country. And then this story, because the ICE are masked. This is funny. The MAGA, we were against mask mandates, right, during COVID. And now it says LAPD chief refuses to enforce state mask ban against ICE. So now MAGA is pro mask mandate for ICE, And then what else? And now Trump wants to nationalize elections, which is against the Constitution's delegation of election administration to state governments. And again, I think we've talked about this before. It's to manufacture second civil war. So that's basically my sense there.
Wow, that is a lot of food for thought.
I've got something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add, so get this. So Palantir. Obviously, we all know that Palantir are creating the surveillance state with the AI and digital tech. In 2025, their profits for the year, their annual profits were 609 million. 570 million of that was from government contracts, up 60%, 66%, actually, the double sixes. And when their CEO, Alex Karp, was describing the importance of Palantir, he said that Palantir are defending. So the Palantir CEO defends surveillance tech as US government contracts boost sales. And he said that our surveillance tech is curbing the government's overreach. It's not for the citizens, it's for the government. So this goes right back to what I just said about the ICE stuff. That, the Palantir is to protect you, not to surveil you, it's to protect you. And I've noticed as well that MAGA has changed their opinion on Palantir. Some of the controlled alt media were saying, actually, Palantir are a good thing. It's better than having the WEF do it. Let's let Palantir do it instead. And have you had enough of this yet, MAGA? Have you had enough?
And you're making good points about it sucking up the power from the state. It's the Fed saying, we'll keep these guys from overreach. They'll keep these guys from preventing us from from exiling these people or deporting these people. But a couple of good points that what you guys are saying brought up to me. When I was a kid, I went to Ireland for something, and there were long guns in the cities. And I've been to South America and I've seen that. And of course, I thought it's because they had a disruptive population or whatever. But seeing it unfold here, it's very clear that an intentional policy has created this tense environment, a strategy of tension. We would never need that. We had that hanging Chad in the election in 2000. There was no violence whatsoever. We are not like that. We're just too rich. We don't care. We sit around. It's that's what we do. And but this also, that ICE agent or the Border Patrol, the increase in that number of people and all the agendas served, obviously this is why they have had such a chaotic border policy for so long now. And I kept saying, why don't you have a coherent border policy, a coherent immigration policy? And I had a lot of thoughts as to why. I mean, one is they don't want to actually make it clear what their real immigration policies are because they just want to control it. They know the people won't accept their purposes, which is probably to control the makeup of the population of workers, to maybe have a flywheel of extra workers for when they implement tech and they can just kick those people out. Maybe they want more women to work, less women to work. Maybe they want to restrict farm labor so that food production gets pushed out of America, which did happen, when they have minimum wage laws and start applying them to agriculture. We can't make our own food now. We're in the habit of not making our own food. So there's a lot of reasons for them to want to control the immigration process and not have a coherent policy. But the chaos itself is what fostered this militarization there, and it's spreading from the border internally. It's very clear it was intentional.
It says here, Palantir declares itself the guardian of Americans' rights. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. But I've always thought that, like, you want the cops to all have cop cams unless it's a streaming URL and never goes off and everyone can watch it all the time, it's just gonna be used against you. But there are a few, inversions in this, and this is the last observations I have on the ICE PSYOP or what I mean, it doesn't mean people aren't really getting hurt. Uh, so one of the inversions is, yes, the Republicans are for mask mandates now, but there's also I asked a friend of mine who's a liberal, I said, why are the unions and the liberals in favor of having these people who live like 10 in a house and provide, below subsistence level wages? They're basically what liberals would call slave labor and drive down wages for unions. Why are they on the side of protecting these people? And I'm sure they would say, well, we just don't want them brutalized. I mean, and then you could but it's just like feels like an inversion because back in the day, labor unions were against unfettered, unskilled labor. And then at the same time, Republicans are saying don't bring guns in protest to federal overreach. And if not, I'm not looking for chaotic gun use and amateurish gun ownership, but we have a right to gun ownership, and the Republicans are the ones who normally defend that. And they also, historically, we defend the right to work and travel. We don't like a welfare state. That's what makes open borders basically impossible. But but there's a definite inversion going on here. And the same thing with feds. Like the Republicans are on the side of federalizing everything, of taking away states' rights. That's the biggest inversion of all, in my opinion.
I mean, I think it's a uniparty, and the left is not your friend, the right is not your friend. Trump is not a defender of freedom. And here's just the name Ash, former, I think he was a senator, I forget.
I used to like him, yeah, but he was definitely blackmailed into submission, in my opinion.
I don't know anything about that.
He was my favorite, yeah. Favorite.
He just tweeted, first term, he made a funny meme because Trump just said you can't walk in with guns. And first term, he says, first term Trump, which this is what Trump said. I like taking the guns early, take the guns first, go through due process second. Second term Trump, you can't have guns, you can't walk in with guns. Third term Trump, I'm king now, okay? You're not keeping your guns. We're not going to be like Somalia. And just to add on to what Mike was saying, there was this story about Palantir and Deloitte, who 22 billion in contracts, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to me they're just playing both sides off against each other as always. So the left are now going to be hailing Palantir as their savior, whilst Trump's presidency has given Palantir record amounts of revenue from profits. So it's what is Palantir working for Trump or against Trump?
I think they're all in the same
one
team.
big club, you ain't in it, George.
So that reminds me of the next thing that I wanted to talk about I wanted us to discuss was Greenland. So you look at the ICE thing, you look at what the Republicans are doing is getting Democrats elected, and that's not a mistake. And I looked at Greenland and I thought, NATO is a club. There's absolutely no chance that in this like increasingly multipolar world or whatever, the Russia, China, America thing, that NATO is fighting within the cells. And Trump is not just some nut job, like having ideas like I want Greenland for my birthday or whatever. Like that's not what's happening here. So I was thinking, what could possibly be going on? And I noticed that the government of Greenland asked Denmark to send troops. And I saw something else like France wants to send support or whatever. And as I dug in, I found that the vast majority of the people in Greenland are Inuit. They're like Eskimos. They're indigenous people, vast majority. There's no such thing as private land ownership in Greenland. They are a colony fully owned by Denmark. And Denmark says, well, the Inuit don't have a tradition of private land ownership, but Denmark's the one who owns the land. And 2 years ago, the Inuit declared their intention to seek independence from Denmark to no longer be a colony. And under UNDRIP, this UN Indigenous People thing, which Denmark gave the force of law, these guys are entitled to self-determination, to self-governance. They have to do it via a referendum. They've already taken control of their mineral rights and have banned uranium and oil exploration, I believe, in order to protect their fishermen. So my thought was, if these guys are independent and want to start selling their rare earths or whatever to Russia or China, there would be no controlling it. However, if they feel like they're at imminent threat, imminent risk from somebody close by, the US or Canada, they may re-up as a colony of Denmark for that perceived threat. And then the last thing I will say is I did the math, and their rare earths or their commodities or whatever are worth several $1 trillion. There's only 57,000 people on the entire island. They could give $10 million to every single person, and it would still only be probably a quarter of the value of all that stuff. So better not let that idea get out. They might ask for it. But I think there might be something to the power of the indigenous people with respect to those commodities that is driving this, what has to be fake, back and forth within NATO.
This is something that's really interesting that's happening, because it's happened in Canada already. There was the land back ruling last year where the Constituent tribes were given Aboriginal title, which is basically in the hierarchy of title. You've got the crown at the top. They own the land outright, and everybody else gets like a serf type title. It's like a feudal system. So when you buy some property in Canada, you'll get given the freehold, but they've placed the Aboriginal title above it. And in 2025, there was a landmark ruling where the judge said that the Aborigines can take the land of an entire region of BC, and that includes all of the land on which property is owned. So there's about 200 private residences there, there's Amazon factories, there's a golf course, there's all kinds of things, and they now have legal title. So that's obviously collapsed the property values because you don't own it anymore. And this ruling can now be rolled out across Canada because you've got a legal precedent. So this is a real attack on private property ownership. Of course, nobody owns the property because it's still owned by a superior anyways. This is really just to assert the property of everyday people. And yeah, it just is worth noting that that's how already happened in Canada. You can find information online.
Interesting.
I'll just add, I want to share my screen real quick because I think it's right what you say. Monica, what you mentioned was where are we? That's like the what you mentioned are the technical aspects, right? The East, the rare earths, and so for me, like that's like the underbelly of what's going on. But for me, again, it's the technate. And one of my recent guests, the financial consultant, Laurent Lequeux, the Frenchman out in Asia, he posted this on his feed, which I thought it was funny. It's from
the
NASA.
Aerial view for listeners.
No, it's from NASA.
It's so amazing.
It's from 2018, Greenland. And technically, I think I posted in my weekly analysis, technically, Greenland is tectonically part of the technate. It's because according to NASA, Greenland is part of the North American tectonic plate, which I find funny. And then just my trends again, this is a little peek from my paid subscriber material, but you notice the trend, like given the work that we've done on CD the past months, the trend continues of the formation of the technate. When we talk about Venezuela and all that, in Mexico. So I have a Mexican friend of mine. He works somehow related to law, and he believes that the Mexican government is going to do whatever Washington wants. And we're seeing that so far. He doesn't think we're going to see like a war with Mexico. And the most recent examples, you had FBI apparently acting on Mexican territory, which is against Mexican law. And Scheinbaum says, oh, la, 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 I don't know what's going on. It didn't happen. Because there was this Canadian, he was a former Canadian athlete. You know that story? Ryan something?
Yeah.
A Canadian athlete who was running drugs in Mexico. So the FBI breaking Mexican sovereignty, Scheinbaum doesn't care. Then you have Scheinbaum being forced to cut off oil to Cuba. doing whatever Washington wants. Then the cartel transfers. They've done like 100 cartel members, shipped them off to America. Apparently those are illegal according to Mexican law.
Yeah, what was that about? I couldn't.
The U.S. says we want these cartel guys, and Mexico just sends them. And apparently that is against Mexican law. And so they're doing whatever the empire wants. And then Colombia, which this was crazy. I just saw this story. Gustavo Petro is going to meet with Trump a few days before that. Colombia is doing narco cleanup. They just got like half a dozen Colombian narco cocaine cartel members. So it's like you said, okay, Colombia is doing whatever Washington wants. Costa Rica just got a new kind of like MAGA-ish technocratic right-wing president. There you go. Costa Rica's falling into line. The Panama Canal ports, right? They just ruled against the Chinese, the Hong Kong company. That's falling into line. Venezuela is privatizing its oil sector now. That's falling into line. And here's the story from CNN. U.S. planning CIA foothold in post-Maduro Venezuela. So then when you talk about Greenland, it's just kind of like it's all coming together.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing since last time we talked about Venezuela, it's very clear that that was a pre-pack, as they say in bankruptcy court. Like, that's a pre-pack. So Maduro's like, yes, you told me you'd get my wife and me out. We're all set up. We've probably killed or purged anybody who could really put up a good fight. We'll just slap the VP in there and we're good to go. And I wonder if, because there was no regime change. It's the same regime. And I wonder if that's what we're headed to Iran, because I definitely saw some cleaning house as the people were murdered over the years, including when Trump murdered or ordered the murder of Soleimani, who was a real Iranian for the Iranians. And then the helicopter crash. I mean, people were killed in the upper echelons there. And I think I've told you this before about Rouhani. He was the president and he got his PhD in Scotland, and his PhD advisor was, an inside guy. And that guy's PhD advisor was a lawyer, an MI6 guy who was a lawyer for or analyzed the Lockerbie trial, which was an absolute scam trial that railroaded a Libyan for crashing a plane that I think the CIA was responsible for. That's Rouhani, like in that circle. So some of the Iranian guys are inside jobs already. The ones who weren't, I think, are being killed. So I wonder if they have a pre-pack underway there. Not that they wouldn't actually, blow up some bombs. There's big money in that, and flatten some areas so they can bring in a biometric, like technate thing, like you were saying, Hervoy, that maybe afoot in Gaza. So I'm just wondering what you guys think about what are your expectations, either any revised opinions about Venezuela or your revised or expectations about what's happening with Iran, Gaza, all of that?
I would just say on the Iran thing, that I don't believe that the regime over there doesn't have any contact or association with the West. And one of the things that I found out when I was studying the Shah of Iran was that they'd built a secret pipeline between Iran and Israel, and it was pumping oil from Iran to Israel. And after the revolution, it apparently continued for about 15 years afterwards. So
and what about the Khashoggi's? Weren't they
it was Jim Rich.
Dealing arms?
Is that his name, Jim Rich, who Trump pardoned?
Rich.
He ran away to Switzerland. He had a huge court case against him, and then Trump basically gave him the presidential
Yeah, definitely. His name was Rich.
He was a trader, a really, really rich trader. And he come out and said, oh yeah, that pipeline was going for like 10, 15 years after the revolution, which would totally blow apart the narrative.
Mark Rich,
that's right.
And I guess I can just add again, I just love sharing my screen because I guess as a professor type
it's great
thing. And Jacob Nordengard's recent piece was fantastic because he pointed out, you can see how this is all planned. Think about this. Months ago, I think we commented on this, the U.S. Institute of Peace was renamed to the Trump Institute of Peace. Doge came in to do a lot of this preliminary work. So you have the renaming of the Trump Institute of Peace, and then the Board of Peace, right? Which, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Is this, they're trying to replace the UN. Now we're going to World Government 3.0. So, Martin Armstrong just tweeted saying, according to my calculation, 2031, the UN will dissolve. And so I don't know if they're going to get rid of it and replace it with Board of Peace or something, or keep it. but just, build upon it with other structures. But Nordengard says, and I agree with him, that he thinks they're going to regime change Iran. I think it's baked in the cake. They're going to do it. And just like they're doing with Ukraine and Venezuela and Gaza, you get rid of the legacy systems and install technocracy. And so he says there were secret meetings with Pahlavi, the Shah. I think they're going to go with Shah 2.0. And they need, the whole Cyrus Accords thing, the Abraham Accords, Cyrus Accords, all playing into this occult theosophy Zionist type stuff. And then there was, they're positioning themselves, U.S. forces, but Sergei Glaziev commented on this telegram that apparently Iran has formalized the power to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. So we might see this, they've just formalized it. So in Iranian legal terms, they can shut it down, and then that will just, who knows the unintended consequences there.
I mean, sounds like they're teeing up a provocation.
Yeah, and then just because you mentioned Gaza, I had this clip. Let me pull it up real quick, which is a must see in terms of the technocracy. So this was Dropsite News who shared it. They want a planned city in Gaza, which is insane. Here's a 30-minute clip about it.
Oh, wait, we can't hear it.
I muted. Give me 1 second. Here we go.
One idea that's been leaked is for a planned community in Rafah, which would force Palestinians into what would effectively be an Israeli-controlled surveillance city. The U.S. military-led stabilization group has put forward plans for the housing block, which would be under full Israeli military control. Residents would have to be invited to live there and then monitored through biometric surveillance. That digital ID would be needed to move around. Residents would be provided with electronic wallets and would not use cash.
That's like literally what happened in my algorithm ghetto in my gated community.
I was about to say that's the plan for us. That's not Gaza. That's
everything. And then it says Hamas has agreed to hand over Gaza to technocracy. Like they are ready to transfer the governance of Gaza to a Palestinian technocratic committee. So, yeah, enough said there.
Well, if that's what they're saying, wow, this is terrible, this is awful for the poor people of Palestine, and they're literally describing the same things our governments are trying to implement in our countries. It's like, wait a minute, can't you connect the dots here, Sky News?
That report reminded me, it's Alison McDowell, right? Wrench in the Gears, is that what her name is? Yeah, she used to talk about this stuff when it seemed crazy. Like, she sounded crazy when she would tell you, like, they were going to have mini houses that measured the amount that people were pooping and stuff. And they've had experimental communities of that here in LA. I don't know how long ago it was, but since I had interviewed her, the open air prison idea, everything that you're saying, yeah, I mean, it's happening. It's happening there anyway. And I wonder if that's what they're using these wars for. Ukraine, Iran, it's got to be part of it.
That's basically it. They are just getting rid of the old legacy systems and bringing in the algorithm ghetto, algocracy. I don't know if on that note you want to bring in the Epstein.
Yes, which I just ignored because it seems like such a distraction. We have plenty of names of people we could go after. We don't need more. Nobody's suffering from it, right? I mean, am I missing something? Are there trials?
I think the whole Epstein thing has been drip fed to people to dampen the outrage so that people, because will we, won't we, we'll give you a little bit, we'll tease you. They've firstly turned it into a form of entertainment, which I always avoid when something's done, because I don't think that's very useful. It's certainly not about justice, clearly. And so that being said, what is it? It's to give people cheap dopamine hits. But I also think they just dampen the outrage by just, like, we're going to give this to people over 2 or 3 years. That by the time you finally get some files, it's like more of a curiosity than an actual genuine backlash, which is what should happen for these things. People should be outraged and say, wow, all of our top politicians are grotesque monsters. And instead, it's just people pointing fingers at different sides of the aisle.
But it's not just the slow drip. It's like baseball, like incredible tedium and then a lot of action. So they give you the slow drip and then they say, we just released millions of
Now they
documents.
just waterboarded us with
Yeah, who
Epstein.
could do that? Yeah, who could go through all those documents? That in itself seems like a waste of time. Like you're not going to actually get anywhere with that. And if there are, people and the Virginia Giuffre, if you guys saw the Virginia Roberts like posthumous video, if I'm dead, all this stuff is happening, and you'll be getting more information from me. Like seriously, the woman who is in the picture, like she's a girl in the picture with Prince Andrew, the teenage girl, the pretty blonde girl. Her suspicious death and posthumous video, it definitely smacks of a psyop, and I don't usually fall for that. I do think it's a distraction, but let's hear your theory.
It's not a distraction in the sense that it's true, it's real, but the point is, like, Lord Mandelson of the Labour Party just resigned. Today, it was a couple of days ago, Slovakia's prime minister's national security advisor resigns over Epstein links. And there was years ago, I can't remember, if I can remember correctly, they were talking about like the neocons, the war criminals in the US, and or some bad group. And then for us to maintain order and transition to a more transparent democracy, we would have to sort of let those bad guys, the Cheneys, the Bushes, or whoever, kind of like step down and give them amnesty and don't let anything happen. We couldn't persecute them because that would just create total chaos. We'd have to kind of let them step down, and then we can, just kind of say, okay, we recognize you're wrong. You can go away, and we're going to move on. And I feel like this is kind of what's going on here, where you're seeing just people step down, resign. There's no consequences. I don't think there is going to be any consequences. So, number one, and that's the whole point. People are going, which is great. I think people should be doing these exposés. Look at these emails. Look at this stuff that we found. Bill Gates got STDs from Russian hookers and stuff like that, right? And so, okay, yeah, that's great, but nothing's going to happen, in my opinion.
Before you go to the next point, I want to say I noticed that it's legacy politicians who are irrelevant now. So, and they're not actually, they're just retiring, and and maybe that just opens up space for fresh blood for some, socialist mayor of New York or whatever, or, so yes,
that's one point. And then the big picture is I was interviewing Jason Bassler of Free Thought Project yesterday, and what he said was exactly my thinking, and I'm seeing other people come to the same conclusions independently. If you understand technocracy, scientific dictatorship, the algocracy that's now being put upon us, this is the culmination, is the intersection. This Epstein honeypot project has been decades in the making. And I think they built it for multiple reasons, right? To blackmail, this, that, business, mafia type stuff. But it's funny how now it's all exposed. It's like they were waiting for the technology to catch up for technocracy implementation, Palantir, all that stuff. It's like, we're here now. They've built the infrastructure, like we just saw Gaza. They built the infrastructure, digital ID, stable coins, real ID, Flock, you name it. It's all now, like the past 2 years, we've seen it all set up, right? It's like it's ready to go and be deployed. And then as soon as they got the technocracy ready, what do you know? All these human politicians are bad, because the point of algocracy and technocracy is to have a government run by bots, by software, by AI,
free
by
from
algorithms,
human frailty,
with no humans. And
I agree. I think that's what they're doing. It's they want people to no longer trust anything at all. All old institutions, Federal Reserve. When have we ever seen them have a president discredit the Federal Reserve and open up allegations and cases? So I think this is the setup for the implosion. On the other side, it will be AI controlling interest rates, AI controlling monetary policy, AI controlling politics, and people who are going to be so fried from all of the psyops and seeing all of the old world just destroyed. I mean, really, it's like everyday Americans are having the flag bent in front of them. Like, everything you believe is a lie. And that they're just revealing everything to everyone, that people will accept it. They'll say, well, it's got to be better than those monsters that we had before.
Yeah, I mean, Trump talks like we're in a post-constitutional world.
Megadeth, Dave Mustaine, Post-American World. They just dropped their new album. I'm gonna see them live for their last show ever.
What is the new album called?
It's self-titled Megadeth, and it's their last album. He's
love Mustaine.
It's nice to go out before you're too old, but yeah.
So weird synchronicity. I was writing an article yesterday, and for some reason, I used the band title Megadeth just as an expression. I think it said like the Megadeth of the dollar, and I never realized they had a new album. So
that's a technical term.
Universe was beaming it into my head.
That's a nuclear term, right? Megadeth in terms of the amount of people who die from an explosion. Maybe on that thought, just to round out the war stuff. If you have anything else to add on Epstein, because I just
the Bitcoin thing was interesting. This is something that last November I did a video about the Epstein links with Bitcoin, and I wasn't the first, but it never got any traction. And isn't it weird how this happens? Like old information that's been around ages suddenly gets a load of traction and gets shared everywhere. And that's what's happened with the Epstein stuff. But basically, it's been found out, for those that don't know, that Jeffrey Epstein admitted that he spoke with Satoshi, CIA, or whoever it was, NSA, and he was also paying the salary of 60% of the 5 core developers. So basically 3 out of 5 were on his payroll. He hired them at MIT labs, and through Epstein, I'm guessing it would have been Israel funding. And he also was the seed investor for Coinbase. So the entire Bitcoin and crypto space is absolutely filled with Epstein, actually, is who it's filled with.
Not a libertarian endeavor.
But remember, Bitcoin's for everyone, Bitcoin's hope, Bitcoin's freedom. Enjoy.
Decentralized. So, what were you saying about, what do you want to move on to, or what did Nouriel Roubini say? I think you were talking about that also.
Oh, I just closed that. Let me bring it up real quick. And Aaron Day made some funny comments. Let me just share my screen again. No, I think you're right, Mike, and Aaron Day. Apparently Michael Saylor is down $2 billion today. Perhaps he can top his previous record when he lost $6 billion in a day during .com bust. And to your point right now, what you just said, Mike, Besant was, I guess, being grilled about. He says, we are retaining seized Bitcoin. And Aaron Day is like, Bitcoin is digital surveillance gold. The U.S. government policy is to use theft, civil asset forfeiture to acquire more. This is not how we defeat central banks and tyrannical governments. And Nouriel Roubini just posted, I think, exclusively on his X, the coming crypto apocalypse. And what was his key points here were, where was it at? That true decentralized finance will never reach scale. No serious government, not even the Trump administration, will ever allow full anonymity of monetary and financial transactions, because that would be a boon for criminals, terrorists, rogue states, non-state act. I mean, he's got a point. And he says, so yeah, and yeah, I don't know what else to say there. I think it proves our points now that this was all created by the system to bring us into the algorithm ghetto. So,
I think it's another win for the cognitive dissidents. We got it right with
you saw that coming for sure. You knew all that.
And one more important point I included in my weekly wrap up. Adam Livingston, I think, was the X account. He did a great tweet where he talked about the legacy banking system. And then I had on Brent Johnson and Mark Goodwin, this whole stablecoinized infrastructure where the legacy, and I've seen it here in Mexico, like the legacy system sucks. They charge you to keep your account. Their apps suck, so they give you like negative 0% yield. Their apps suck. There's so much KYC. And the new fintechs, it's like everything's instant. You sign up instantly. There's no 10 level KYC. They're giving you like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% yield just for putting it into holding your money with them, because I think they are somehow on top of the stablecoin layer. And so this point was that I said, this is how we're going into the algorithm ghetto. People are going to stop using the legacy banks. They're going to open up accounts with, Coinbases and fintech accounts that are layered on Ethereum or, US dollar tether. And everyone, it's like the same thing with Bitcoin. It was the same thing with the internet. The internet came along, was the Wild West. It was freedom, and then you make money, and then the walls close in. And then it's like social media, same thing, and then the walls close in. And then it's the Bitcoin. People made money, they got their appetites wet, and then the walls close in. And it's the same thing now. So, and then they're going to make money with the stable coins, and then the walls going to close.
I agree. I think you laid it out perfect. That's how it works. They give you a few crumbs, and you think, "Oh, this is tasty," and then you're eating rat poison. That's the way it's going to work.
I had a little thing about just shocking Trump corruption, since Steve Witkoff was in one of your articles there, and then I want to pick Mike's brain about some of the stuff he's been talking about, gold, the dollar, etc. But did you all hear about this spy sheik, from the United Arab Emirates, who invested hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's company, which I didn't even know that president is not supposed to. Well, I'm sure he has an agreement that he's not actively managing this company, but it's hundreds of millions of dollars that this sheik, who was looking for advanced AI chips for his company, invested in Trump's companies. And even Steve Witkoff, it says, at least $31 million was also slated to flow to entities affiliated with the family of Steve Witkoff, a co-founder of World Liberty, who weeks earlier had been named U.S. envoy to the Middle East, the document said. So this sheik got his AI chips, Trump got hundreds of millions of dollars, Witkoff got tens of millions of dollars. The level of corruption, I always defended Trump because I just did not think he was diddling children, and I still don't. I don't think he's screwing whores because he won't pay for it, and he's a germaphobe. But the corruption, I used to say,
just on that
Biden
point,
corruption was huge, but Trump's is huge too.
Well, I mean, the Epstein files, some of them say, I don't know if it's true.
People say that, yeah.
That Melania was gotten by Epstein and then given to, it's like the Pretty Woman, Richard Gere thing. So she was like a model that was gotten by Epstein for Trump. And again, there's not
I'd
to
have
say.
to actually dig into it because I think there's some fake stuff in those files. I'm not saying that because I think that, but somebody was telling me that George H.W. Bush was watching the dismemberment of babies or whatever, and I have to look into the details.
I mean, this is not to say, from what I've read, it's not to say it seemed like she was a model. It seemed like she wasn't not that she was a prostitute, she wasn't into that stuff, but then she was just kind of hooked up with Trump. So it's not like
that's how he met her.
Something like that.
You could see that. You got to meet him somehow.
But just being in that ambit, that orbit of, the Epstein crew and all that. So, because
it looks to me, one thing I can say from what I've heard about those files, it looks to me like he was more important than anybody else that was associated with him. He was the kingmaker. Everybody wanted to be around him.
Epstein?
He was the one. Yeah, Epstein was the one doing the deals with Bitcoin. Epstein was the one investing, and everyone was flocking to him. So he was the nexus of power. So Trump and everybody. I mean, why would Trump be getting a wife off Epstein unless Epstein is some kind of kingmaker?
I think he's the face job.
Right.
I think he's got a hand up his back. He was
for sure. But I mean, but he's the king of the puppets. Let's say.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I know. I mean, I would have to dig into it and see it, but I feel like Trump is kind of what you see is what you get. I mean, he liked young, beautiful women, not necessarily girls, and he had wheeling and dealing with the federal government, just like his father. He went bankrupt a few times. He was a reality star. His business all went to being brands and not actual financial acumen or business acumen. And he was the wrestling guy. And, now he's just a face job. Maybe it goes deeper than that, but I don't know. I mean, and people do say Melania was, maybe placed there, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, but I don't like the corruption just bums me out. It's so huge because it's so easy to have Trump derangement syndrome that if you focus on the fact that he's super corrupt, that he's getting all this money, you feed right into that. It's like you're asking for President Newsom, and I'm not.
But I think he is
for none of it.
I mean, but I think he is super corrupt. I mean, they all are.
Yeah, I know. No, I know. Totally,
the recent, this week,
and that is consistent with his history.
You were bringing up Saudi and World Liberty. I think he was just asked, UAE invested like 500 million in your world liberty.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about that. I'm like, come on. And then
and he's probably insulated from it.
I think he would probably have been notified he's going to get $500 million.
He's going to get it's billions now. All over the place. All over the place.
He got a plane. He got a gold bar given by the
and he's keeping the plane. He said they're giving it to the United States, but he's not.
But the other point.
I remember reading a Financial Times article, and it was his son Eric Trump, and he said, "People don't realize just how much money my father's losing by being president."
But that's a lie. I
and
read
all of these
this
court
book.
cases as well, like the court cases suing all these different people, settling
now
out massive amounts.
Yeah, he's got billions now, but when this Tim O'Brien wrote this book, Trump sued him for saying he was not that rich and then withdrew the suit. But what were you saying, Roy? And then I have one more thing to say. So he's worth billions now, but he wasn't before.
They asked him about the Epstein stuff and the other day, and he's like, oh, I don't know anything about him. I don't know Epstein. And like, there are photos going back decades and video footage. Anyone can see.
Yeah, he knows.
He's partying hard with Epstein. He gave him his wife, and then for him to say, "Oh, I don't know the guy," I'm like, flat out liar.
Trump doesn't drink and never has drunk, and I don't think he's that kind of guy. I really don't. I mean, I have a lot of complaints about Trump, but I think he likes beautiful young women. I do not think that he's a pedophile. I just don't. I mean, I'd have to see.
But that's not even the point. I mean,
it's just the whole thing is just rotten to the core. Every one of them is just utterly corrupted in one way or many ways. And I mean, the thing is, this is the president of the USA. Biden was the president of the USA. Like, these people are so degrading to actually what America stands for. It supposedly stands for. And I think that's kind of the point.
It's crazy amounts of money that they're appropriating for themselves.
But I think the thing is, and people have to be clear, it's the same kind of when I talk about the alt media that's corrupted, it's a spectrum. So for the Epstein stuff, there are people that names are in the files, which I'm sure are not pedophiles. They just happened to attend the party or a function, and they didn't know what they were getting into.
And he seemed like a pretty cool guy, like a connected guy, like somebody you'd want to be near.
That's one spectrum. Then you go a step further. People that knew, they said, "Okay, I'll do this thing," and which is illegal and shady. But it's still not pedophile stuff. Like maybe made some corrupt business deal. That's next level.
That's for sure.
And then you get a third level where they are doing this pedophilia stuff, and then they are probably killing. Like doing human Aleister Crowley type sacrifice, because it's the same thing in alt media.
That does happen, yeah.
Like I said, I've gotten money from people who attempted to co-opt Geopolitics and Empire, and I thought it was someone trying to help me, and I'm like, well, I had no idea. But then there are people who have taken this person's money knowingly and know that this person is driving, globalist technocracy. So there are these differences,
Yes, and I think that stuff does happen. Maybe this is like a Pizzagate 2.0 where they put a whole bunch of real stuff in there and it's drowned out by fake or outrageous stuff or whatever. But one other thing, I was just scratching my head because this ballroom that they're putting on the White House costs $400 million. And I'm just thinking, so I looked up, like, are there any homes that are worth $400 million? They're ridiculous, like homes with 5 pools or whatever. It would be worth 5,000 pounds of gold, I think. 5,000 pounds of gold. You could make it out of gold. So I'm wondering, are there 6 basements? Is it Dr. Strangelove stuff? Is it a command center? It's the technocracy's brain.
Yeah. A Substack, Dre's dossier. She just
really I saw that.
Good work. She's done that, and it seems to be
after
one of those.
I puzzled it through. Somebody sent me that. I'll have to examine it.
Yeah, it makes me think of one of my favorite video games ever, Fallout. The Fallout 4. It was a Fallout, and then 3 or 4 in the New Vegas, where in one of those there was the Institute, which is, I think, mirror like on MIT, which is again MIT, Bitcoin. I think it's DARPA, MIT, all that stuff. And in Fallout, the Institute had these deep underground bases with labs and all the technology, and it kind of feels like, it's that. What else? I mean, and then her latest was one of her best. She talked about the digital ID in Britain, and how basically it's Larry Ellison and Oracle is going to be the backbone for the algorithm ghetto is going to be Oracle. And for a quarter of a century, he's been trying to make Oracle the backbone for the UK government and digital ID, because he says everything is fragmented, that your health data, your financial data, this data, that data, and they're trying to bring it all onto the Oracle cloud infrastructure. And then that's what they want to do in the US and for the whole world, basically.
I have to check out her stuff because she definitely does the research and has the receipts and all of that. But this reminds me of a question I wanted to ask Mike, and I want to hear what was going on with gold, blah, blah, blah. But you have been focused on tokenization lately, and I was wondering if you could give like a paragraph or two on what exactly that is and what it means for us. Like, you're focused on it for a reason.
Yeah, so tokenization, as they put it, is where they take assets and they're starting with financialized assets. So they say, oh, this is going to make everything more equal and fair because you'll be able to take an asset. Let's say instead of having a single share for a stock, you could fragment that share into 1,000 more shares or 10,000 more, and you can buy tiny little pieces. So we can tokenize the assets, and basically you're turning the asset itself into a digital token, and that represents the asset. And then they say, well, we can do this with physical assets too. So rather than a bank owning a property and having a single mortgage, we can fraction that mortgage off into 10,000 pieces, and you can all own a little piece of that property or the Mona Lisa or a paint, whatever. You can just turn them into tokens. But what it's actually truly about, besides them wanting to make the financial system a 24/7 casino, because of course, if the ownership rests on the blockchain, they can transfer it instantly, and they can do it without any opening hours of any exchanges. So that sounds great, but what it's really about is property rights, because once you start to create a tokenized asset, you take the property rights from having physical possession of it to the digital token instead. So it transfers the property rights to the token. So in that scenario, all of these physical assets that people own, it won't be possession is 9/10 of the law. It will be possession is nothing. The token itself on the blockchain will represent ownership.
It reminds me of having a gold ETF.
It's even worse. It's way worse because if they tokenize gold, for example, when you go buy, let's say you go buy a 1 ounce coin, there'll be a digital twin already on a register, and it will be assigned to you. But that's where the ownership lies. So you can take the gold coin, but if you, let's say, incurred a fine in the digital system because you put something on X that they didn't like and you didn't pay it, well, now they've got a record of the asset and they could come and take it, and they can already reassign ownership of the asset without you even agreeing to it because the ownership rests on the blockchain. And so this allows them to surveil who has what everywhere, to turn physical assets that are normally outside of the system into an asset that can be put into the system and collateralized or rehypothecated or taken off you in a fine. And so, yeah, and this is the big push this year. So the DTCC this year, which are the custodian of all of the stocks and shares in America, they literally legally own 98% of all stocks and shares in America. It's in their name already. Well, this year they're now starting to tokenize the assets, and Larry Fink and BlackRock are pushing this really strongly. I don't know if you know about this thing called Davos in the Desert. It's basically like the Middle Eastern version of the WEF. It's called the Future Investment Initiative, and this year it was just all about tokenization and blockchain. So that's the big push. And obviously, once they do this, they want to take your current assets that exist and tokenize them too and put them on the blockchain. And so this is just a part of the beast system. It really is, because once they've done this, everything exists digitally, like your currency, your ID. Because remember, actually, you won't know, but Larry Fink himself said, we're not just going to tokenize assets, we're going to tokenize people. Identities get tokenized too. So you become a tradable asset on the blockchain as well. And yeah, it's
Is
wild.
This inevitable?
It's already happened. They've already tokenized hundreds of billions of dollars of assets already. What they're doing is they're staggering it. So they're doing it in stages. But 2026 is really the year they're accelerating this. Now, obviously they're the tokenizing assets that they already have control over. So remember, they already have control over all the stocks and bonds. So how are you going to stop them from tokenizing them? You can't. But when it comes to physical assets, they're already doing it with, say, properties, some artwork, but it's tiny little experiments. But obviously the goal is to put everybody's assets into the system.
So, okay. That does sound inevitable. I hate that. What can we do? Okay, is there anything we can do to prep for that or insulate ourselves? Buy gold?
I was going to
Is
say,
that why everybody's buying gold?
Become like Book of Eli, Denzel Washington. Get a good backpack, a few good tools, because if they tokenize your house and car and everything, they'll take it, and then you'll just have to go like live in the forest or something.
Well, you can have assets that, and not obviously if you've got a mortgage on a property, they can tokenize it because they have the title to it. But if you own something outright and it's in your physical possession, they can't tokenize it.
Yeah.
What they could do is create a threshold for tokenization. So let's say when you sell it, it gets tokenized. That's what they did in the UK with housing registry.
Yeah.
So all of these unregistered pieces of land and property, they said, well, if you aren't going to do it voluntarily, when you sell it, we'll put it in the system.
Yeah.
And yet still today, over 20% of all land is unregistered because these very wealthy families are not selling it. They're just passing it on intergenerationally.
Yeah. But now they have that huge tax.
Well, not if they don't sell, unless they do some...
I thought there was an inheritance tax now.
Yeah, but the way that they do it, they'll have it all up in trusts. They'll have it, paper deeds only. So those guys are
it's
fine.
It's not a transfer.
Yeah. So they'll be fine.
What you're saying is what Patrick said. Patrick Wood recently said on my podcast that you'll be good if he said your car eventually will fail and you'll need a new car, and then you're screwed because you either won't be able to buy a new car, they won't be available, gas-powered cars, they're going to be too expensive. It'll just only be EVs, or it'll be tokenized, whatever. But if you own your house, you're fine. But if you move, you need to sell it. That's going to be the problem, because if you sell it, then you won't be able to buy a new one for whatever a reason. It'll be difficult. So as long as you hold on to it, and so
that's it.
So if you've got something, don't let it go.
Yeah, and I definitely, I'm sure we're going to talk about gold and silver, but there is a reason why the wealthy elite have always bought gold and owned gold. It's because they understand that when you register assets, they can be usurped very easily. So they like to have things that are unregistered. And this whole idea that the solution was an immutable ledger where every transaction you've ever made is on it, and every ounce what do they call them? Satoshi or Bitcoin's on it. It's like, that's kind of the opposite of what history tells us we should be doing right now. So that was a major psyop.
Yeah. So, why else are people buying gold now or selling it?
It's crazy because obviously we had a big drop the other week, but that's kind of par for the course when you've had gold go up, 75% in a year. Silver in a year was just absolutely crazy. It was it was at one point 250%. It's currently down, obviously, because of the recent crash. But, none of this really matters in the scheme of things, because if you look at gold over 26 years now, it's been the best performing asset, outperformed the stock market by 450%, outperformed housing by much more. And even with the crash that we had last Friday, gold's still up 15% for the month. Now, that was coming off an all-time high.
Wow.
That's crazy. In a single month, gold is still up $615. Now, $615, it used to take 2 years to move that in gold. Now it's a month. And there was actually a day. There was a day last week, Monica, where gold moved $500 in a day. So, I think the volatility is going to be, that's going to continue from here on out, because what happens is as the price of something runs up, you get all the traders jumping in. And the traders are highly leveraged, and they make massive bets, and they have no desire to keep gold. They're just following the trend. They want to earn a quick buck. But that means that you've got a lot of leveraged players in the market that can easily be shaken out. If there's a quick downturn, they're going to quickly start shorting gold because, oh, wow, I've overextended myself. And that can lead to real volatility on the downside. But I would say as well, I think they wanted it to crash, because when people start to get involved in gold and silver for the first time, and you have a load of retail buyers jumping in, and right now, I don't know about you guys, but the retail is out, like all across Canada, US, everyone's out of stock because the buying's been crazy in the physical market, and yet the prices were smashed. And it's like, well, how's the prices getting smashed so quickly when you've got record physical sales in most countries? Like in Europe, I was calling the dealers to see what, the footfall was like. They said we've never been busier, like record months in January. So that was interesting. And I think they like to smash the price at those times because you get a lot of new participants, and then all of a sudden they buy gold for the first time or silver.
Yeah,
and they can't stop the price going up over the long term, because over the long term it's going to continue to rise no matter what, because obviously the system resets versus it. So what they do to try and stop people from being there for that ride up is they just smash the price. If you just bought gold and suddenly it's down within a few weeks by 10%, 15%, that's pretty painful, especially, and silver, it was even worse. So they did this in the 1970s too. I don't know if you guys know, but they didn't make gold legal till it had already moved up 450%. So it moved up 450%. They made it legal on December the 31st, 1974. And then immediately the price got smashed by 45%. Over the next 2 years, it fell. So all of these people that were like, yes, we can finally buy gold. Then the Federal Reserve and the Treasury started dumping gold on the open market to crash it. Well, now it's much easier because you've got the paper markets. You don't need to dump real physical gold. So, yeah, I just think what we're living through is what we've all been discussing. You guys have been discussing gold for a long time, so have I. And you can't complain when it's moved hundreds of percent in just a few years.
I always thought gold was kind of capped, like they were controlling the price for decades. I mean, it really didn't go anywhere, and it really should have, because we had rising debt and all the factors that are at play now have been foreseeable or in operation for decades now, and yet it just spiked. So I feel like somebody took the governor off, but do you think that's possible? And also, what do you think was the single most significant factor in the spike? Was it the ratio of gold to silver because silver was spiking for physical reasons? Like, what is the one thing that made that change happen? Because a lot of the factors were predictable.
Well, going into the last few years, European central banks all were obsessed of getting gold holdings up to 4% of GDP. So all of the banks of
somebody made a decision at some point, and it was
somebody behind. They even said it. The Polish central bank said 4% of GDP is the new gold standard. This was in 2022. Dutch central bank had mentioned it. So a lot of the bigger nations like Germany and France already had that. So they haven't been buying any gold.
Right.
So clearly there was some agreement, and the ones that didn't have up to 4% of GDP accumulated it in breakneck speed. Now, all of a sudden, you've got all the gold price spiking up, and guess what it's done? It's meant that all of these nations that were kind of equalized around 4% of GDP have seen the value of their gold holdings go up tremendously. It's over doubled in the space of a few years. Now, if the gold was held by, let's just say, Germany and France, and all these other nations didn't have it, that would make them very upset. They'd say, wait a minute, you've got all this uplifting capacity. But I think they probably are going to reset the debt versus gold. And I did a little experiment. I looked at the gold to debt coverage ratios of all European central banks. And it was minuscule just a few years ago. But now, after this accumulation and this uplift in price, it's gone up around 150% for every central bank in just a year, Monica. So all they have to do is allow gold to run up for another couple of years at this pace. If it continues for just 2 more years at this pace, they'll have almost 100% gold to debt coverage. They can reset the debt.
That's great
for the do anything for you, but it's going to do for banks.
That's great for the creditors. The creditors then actually get paid. There are assets.
Yeah, that's the central banks, right? So the central banks are making sure they get bailed out while simultaneously ensuring that you don't. And what you're going to do, you're going to bail in the failing commercial banks.
That's the first time that I've heard an explanation that I accept that makes sense to me, that is what they're doing. Because this $50 trillion debt that's projected for the U.S. in 10 years, I mean, if you're going to inflate that away, that's not good for the bankers. Granted, they don't really care about principal payoff. They really care about the interest over time. But if they could actually have that, and if they want to collapse the system, they want to take their money off the table. They want it to be real money. They want to have access to real money. Because I thought they'd have to sell land. I was like, the only assets we have is land. But all of that being said, are you still a buyer?
Oh, I think you've got to think it's going much higher from here, because people are saying, well, why isn't the oil price going up? Well, unlike the 1970s, they're capping the oil price. So they're allowing gold to be the inflation outlet. And that is why they're doing it, because they want to use gold to reset the debt again. So rather than have the currency debasement come out in oil like it did in the 70s, they're funneling into gold. And the way they've done this, I think, is just make a deal with the Saudis. That's why I don't think this Strait of Hormuz thing is going to go anywhere, unless they want to spike the oil price. But look at it this way. When we had all of this tension between Israel and striking Iran's facilities, what happened to the oil price? It went nowhere. It should have spiked up. It should have gone over $100 at that point. But the traders must have known. The traders must have known that there was no risk to the Strait of Hormuz. Otherwise, you'd have seen it go up as people started to hedge. So I think gold's the outlet for inflation. And this really is hard for people to get their head around, because they say, Mike, they must hate gold. And it's like, yeah, they did. But notice how the paradigm shifted in 2025. They started to talk about Fort Knox, willingly, openly talking about gold at Fort Knox. Then they started to talk about gold in the media again. And now all of a sudden you've got the price jumping up. And Tucker Carlson's opened a gold company, by the way.
Oh,
so he's advertising his old gold.
That's like that's your
green light, and I don't think he's going to open a gold company and get Americans to buy gold just before it gets destroyed either. I don't think Tucker's in the know.
So you've got some time.
Tucker's got the connections.
It's interesting because if you go back and read, I think it's War is a Racket, or like something about Smedley Butler, where they remember when they tried to get Smedley Butler to do a coup in the 30s here. The people who wanted him to do it were the bankers who wanted to maintain a gold standard. And I've always been absolutely baffled by that, because to us libertarians, the enemy of money and the economy and everything was always abandoning the gold standard. And it was the bankers who wanted to keep it for, I guess, obvious reasons. And then when they realized how they could exploit it, or that it was inevitable, then they just figured out they made a much more probably out of it with abandoning the gold standard. But I might go back and rethink that period of time, because it does show why the bankers want gold.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that gold's all of a sudden in the spotlight. But this is where I think a lot of people might make the mistake of thinking, oh, they're going to go back to a gold standard. It's like, no way. There's no gold standard. They're going to use gold between, they're creating like an East and West, they're bifurcating the world. Well, how are those two systems going to speak to one another, monetarily speaking? You're not going to use the dollar. You're not going to use the Chinese yuan. So they'll speak to each other through gold. And that's how it will work. So if you're like, let's say the USA, and you're buying something from Asia, you're going to use a gold settlement. China's going to use gold to pay for oil and vice versa. So that's why the gold's so important. But our system's just going to be digital nothingness. We're going to get the tokens and the digital IDs. So I guess, your gold's going to end up worth a lot more. But depending on where you live in the world, they could certainly make it illiquid or difficult to use, or confiscate it. There's been gold confiscations many times in history. And I think we'll probably see some more in the coming 10 years.
Well, I always think if you don't know what to do about a commodity or something that you're interested in that's spiking in price, or you think it's a long-term investment, the old cost averaging is not a bad way to go. So you want to buy one gold coin a year, or who knows if they'll allow it forever, but eventually over time, you'll have bought it when it's high and bought it when it's low. And
I think silver's a different beast, because silver, I think like 60% of all silver is used in industry. So it's not a monetary metal, and it's not going to be put back in the system. Like the central banks don't buy.
They're going to run out
silver. So but there you go. It's got a different reason. It spikes up because of supply and demand, and it's very important. The US has put it on the critical minerals list. So silver's great. It's got its own reasons for going up, but they're not the same. Like they are different.
Okay. I had something local I wanted to talk about, this permitting and the fires in here. Just a quick thing that I think folds into a lot of the stuff we're talking about. But before I get to that, did anybody else want to talk about, I think you wanted the Bank of England aliens, but Arvoye also, anything else?
that was me. Yeah. So this came out in the media just the other month, and I saved it because I thought this is perfect for the Cognitive Dissidents show. Bank of England must plan for financial crisis sparked by aliens. Helen McCaw, who worked in financial security at the central bank for a decade, warned that such a disclosure about the existence of extraterrestrial life could cause severe market disruption. She argues that confirmation of technologically advanced non-human intelligence behind unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAPs, would likely trigger ontological shock, leading to extreme price volatility, loss of confidence in traditional asset pricing, and potential bank failures. So there you go.
Guess they have options.
Any comment? I want to get your comments actually, Brian.
No,
because you've been talking about the fake alien thing a few times.
Well, I think a week or two ago I commented on that story in my weekly analysis, and it was basically force majeure, right? I think all of us had that during COVID. I think it comes down. It's multiple things. It's the financial collapse thing. It's the alien thing. It's a world government thing. So when I was employed in Kazakhstan and COVID happened, they actually had us sign like a 2-paragraph addendum to our contract that mentioned force majeure, right? So this galactic event, COVID. So you have to agree to the force majeure, right? Anything we can, you lose your contract, we kick you back to your country, whatever. Banks fail, debts are written off. And so the alien thing, and I shared it in my weekly analysis, people can go back and see the X comment that if they say aliens come into contact, everyone's going to be in a frenzy. Meanwhile, they're going to be rewriting the rules of the governments in the system. And it's a great way to build out, as they do that, world government. And then when people come back to their senses, they go, oh, what do you know? We've advanced these laws, taken away these freedoms, because of aliens. And so I think it's ultimately you have to look at all of this stuff as it's a pretext for world government. Like Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, we haven't mentioned this. They moved the doomsday clock back, I think, forward. More danger, 85 seconds. I think it was at 90 seconds. So we're 85 seconds to midnight. It's all BS, right? But you go to they're a globalist institution, Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, and they use the threat of nuclear threat, AI threat, tech threat, biosecurity pandemic threat, climate threat, and then you can just add on aliens there. Those are all freak out. We need world government. And so that's, I think, effectively what it's about. And then on top of that comes the adjacent satanic agenda, theosophic new age. You read Blavatsky, she talks about the externalization of the hierarchy. So the secret satanic world government is behind the scenes. So they must materialize in a way that you will accept it. And they are the ascended masters. And so, right, when the whole thing comes, so it's going to be a 1-2 punch. Aliens have come in contact. We have to come together as a world government to fight them off. Oh, wait, what do you know? They're the ascended masters. Never mind, but we're going to keep the world government.
I think this is where the drugs come in as well. All these synthetic cannabinoids that are being
ayahuasca, yeah.
It's to get people detached. But I've noticed there's these vending machines now selling these synthetic cannabis everywhere. Apparently, it's happening in Japan. Yeah, all across Europe, Japan as well, which is a really conservative culture. They've got these things now. Everyone's vaping these different chemicals. So I think they want to target the young people especially. But once you've destroyed trust in the old system, you've got people out of the minds, then you give them this cosmic new age ideology and give them a lot of drugs. And AI, of course, and all of the, we can't tell what's real and what's not in the screens anymore. You'll get a lot of people that will fall for this stuff.
Folding in with the drugs, that's very interesting because you hallucinate. I just read Saucers of the Illuminati into my show. We have a chat about that, but this guy, Jim Keith, is an OG of conspiracy theory, but he basically, and this predates the X-Files, but he lays it out as basically an X-Files thing where it's mostly government experimentation and they just blame it on aliens. But yeah, fold in some hallucinogenics and you probably are going to get a spike in like visitations or whatever. So can I tell my little thing? It's so dusty up here. Tell me a little thing about the fires. I don't want, Hervoy, if you had anything else to cover.
Now, just to add real quick, the wars, Dmitry Medvedev just tweeted out, that's it. For the first time since 1972, Russia, the former USSR, and the US have no treaty limiting strategic nuclear forces. SALT 1, SALT 2, START 1, START 2, SORT, New START, all in the past. I believe New START is expiring today or in 2 days. By the way, one of my Geneva professors was a former Russian type of ambassador who participated in one of those SALT START talks. And so Medvedev posted the Game of Thrones "Winter is Coming" image. So, I mean, he's always posting that sort of stuff. So there's that. And then that basically means there are not that there really were any restraints, but now there are formally no restraints between Russia and US in terms of nuclear weapons development. And he alludes to there being more countries will get nukes. You know, the Washington wants their Asian NATO, and they want to station nukes. They want to give Japan nukes and South Korea nukes.
It's all about spending.
That, and then I thought this was hilarious. It's like, are we going to do Vietnam again? An internal document shows the Vietnamese military preparing for a possible American war. So, yeah.
I'm glad because I missed the last one, so I get to see it.
Oh, those poor people. Vietnam is awesome. I highly recommend dropping over there while it's basically free and not rubble for the brief interwar period.
I think a lot of China's manufacturing is done through Vietnam, so it can get around sanctions. So I'm guessing that's a part of it.
Yeah, and also the wages are much cheaper there even than in China. They need to keep. That's why I think North Korea will fold eventually, so they can build really, really cheap factories there before they understand, have real exchange rates and everything. Okay, so let me tell you my little thing. So, excuse me. I'm not smoking or anything. It's just crazy dry up here. So I saw a horrible executive order by Donald Trump where he wants to take over permitting for rebuilds in the areas that got burned by the Eaton and the Palisades fires. And the Palisades, which is on the water and it's rich people and everything, they, I think, are having serious zoning issues because in the old days, they didn't have to have seawalls and maybe there's erosion or whatever. So now they're butting up against a lot of new regulations that make it very difficult to rebuild what they had before. But he's also including up here where every article I read said only 12 houses have been built since the fire. And I'm thinking 12 houses that you're from burned down to rebuilt and occupied in 12 months? I wouldn't necessarily expect even one. But on my very street, there's probably 12 houses that are almost finished. And I sent Hervoy an email. Just pull up maybe the house that's white. That's the biggest one. You can't see it? That's okay. I took pictures. I just walked down my street, not that far, just my normal walk the dog. If it was the street of my address, I took a picture and I think I pulled 6 pictures of houses that have roofs on them. Like they're almost done. And, but Trump passed this executive order that says, and this is just relevant because it's more of this federalization, more of this hijacking Republicans who normally like states' rights. And it also explains why, because I couldn't understand, they cleaned up so fast that Army Corps of Engineers, instead of having insurance companies do it or individual contractors do it, which we were paid our insurance to do, the Army Corps of Engineers came in and cleaned the entire place in like 3 months. It was awful for me because I was on their route, but it was amazing, very efficient. And when the National Guard was here occupying my town, they were so polite and everything. And I remember thinking, like, what are these guys after? All over the news right now, I am reading Trump bragging about the amazing efficiency of all that and how happy everybody. I knew it was a setup. So this is just 2 of the little items in the executive order. And I'm just saying this is a warning. And it's making me nervous because our town council has been very responsive to people's complaints about permitting, fast tracking, like the same people rebuilding their own houses, building the same kind of house, whatever. And if the feds take over, much more vulnerable, especially with the level of corruption, for BlackRock or whatever to come in and bypass the normal permitting and zoning. I've been worried about that, but I was happy to see our council and the local people having like mind actually having some impact on the local government. It's really heartening. I mean, I'll never vote in a federal election again, but I'm going to vote for this councilwoman. So here it says the executive order from Trump is he's going to preempt state or local permitting processes and other similar pre-approval requirements that each agency has found to have unduly impeded the timely use of federal emergency relief funds. So they're using as a right to jurisdiction here that there's all this federal money that people aren't spending. So we are going to step in and accelerate the permitting process so that they can take our money, which is totally backwards. But that's how they're saying that they have a reason to get involved. And the other thing is, and this is crazy, replace preempted state or local permitting regimes or other similar pre-approval requirements with a requirement that builders self-certify to a federal designee from each agency that they have complied with all applicable substantive state and local health and safety standards. If that means that there's no more inspections after what I've seen around here and how a lot of these contractors are incompetent or cheat, they will absolutely go around. And us homeowners and rebuilders, we're not used to a regime that has no regulation or inspections. If we were, we would have control over it and we would know what to watch out for, and you could hire your own private ones. But we have this false sense that the government does take care of these things. To suspend that is really alarming, but it's just another opportunity to for corruption, but also to federalize what should be uniquely local just because you have local needs. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know because it's all over the news here and it's wrong.
I think sooner or later, Monica, you're going to end up in an algorithm ghetto. I'm coming to you from the future. I like to joke I'm a Mark of the Beast beta tester.
I was like, thank goodness, because the Pacific Palisades, we're being insulated from that because we're up here and we're poor, nobody cares, and we're taking care of our own business. And Trump literally is like, that will not do. This is an opportunity to, yes, put those people in an algorithm ghetto. It's enough to make you cry, but whatever. I've shed enough tears about this. Anyway, but I did want to tell you because I'm on the ground here, and you just, when you see like the lies in the news and you see the truth yourself, like it's you don't always have that opportunity. So anyway, there it is.
I can't believe how quick they did it. Like when you've explained it, you had the Tony Soprano removal companies come in and get rid of all that waste. It's like, wow, that was fast.
It was so fast.
That's crazy.
And nobody had to pay for it. I didn't like that because it meant the federal taxpayers were paying for what I paid my insurance company to do. And why are the insurance companies getting away with it? But boy, now I know why. It's just to give credibility. I mean, it's so mind-boggling to me that all the same people used to call my show and complain about Obama violating the Constitution are simply just bamboozled by this guy just saying, like, I hate Democrats. And they're like, well, anything he does is fine with me or whatever, even if it might even be more insidious than that. But anyway, it makes me sad. So
gotta sit back and just watch the show because
I know. I am building a fortress. Like, I'm building a wall. Like, you can hear it in the background. I actually have to run out and make sure, like, you wouldn't believe how many times I've run out and be like, it's on backwards. Like, fix it. So I have to go do that. I'm sure you can hear it. Can you hear it?
I hear some very vague noise in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, they're welding and building. So I'm telling you, 50% of the time, if not more, it has to be redone. It's like, you definitely want people. you want people you can trust. But yes, I'll be happy after the wall is built, and I'm just going to sit out there by myself and not block out the outside world. But did we miss anything else, gentlemen, that you wanted to talk about?
I think we did a good job. We covered most of the important stuff.
Yes, it's always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Maybe just one more closing
thought.
Yeah,
go for it. Absolutely.
Share the screen again. We talked about this before hitting record, but everyone's seen this famous Chinese professor, predictive history, the guy who popped up, right? Apparently his name is Zhang Shiquin. I've had my doubts. We all know anyone who pops up out of nowhere is
100%.
Suspect. And political economist, I just found him. He does some good work. We followed each other. And this was the first write-up that provided some semblance of evidence. And he basically, so this guy, his content went viral, he says, in mid-2025 for no apparent reason. He was saying stuff that other people have been saying. So again, why? And then he says that his biases are also not very hard to discern. In one video, he claimed Russian civilization is based on violence, while arguing that the U.S. was not, because the genocide of indigenous Americans was met with little resistance. So he's kind of got like a pro-U.S. tinge. And then basically, he's got like his YouTube, based in Canada. And what did he say? Like his numbers shot up, like on Substack, 45,000 plus, #1 and rising, world politics, and YouTube has over 1 million subscribers. And then at the end, he says, where was the key stuff? Canada. He mentioned somewhere that Chinese Canadian, right? So that's a tell. When you have a Chinese person living in the West, often they work for U.S., intelligence operations. And he says the kicker is, all of the above led me to conclude that he was almost certainly a CIA-constructed social media phenomenon who bizarrely appears to have used some content from my account as part of his fabricated persona. I decided to do more research before publishing this theory. Lo and behold, I discovered an article from 2017 from CNN in which this Chinese professor himself describes how Chinese counterintelligence concluded back in 2002, shortly after he had arrived from Yale, that he was an American spy and deported him. So
he's lucky they didn't kill him.
Case closed. Here's the screenshot, 2017. He says, the Chinese professor, I can count myself lucky that when the Chinese secret police arrested me.
Yes, that's exactly what I just said. Yeah.
Well,
So
that's actually even bigger confirmation. It means he was an important one, so they did a deal to get him back.
Canadian citizen.
That's a good point.
And Yale. What do you mean did a deal to get him?
Well,
he was worth trading.
If he was expendable, they would have allowed the CCP to just lock him away.
Yeah,
but the fact that he got allowed to go back means
quid pro quo.
So who do you think he's ultimately serving agenda for?
Oh, I don't know the guy. I'm just
who knows who? Yeah, like China probably got one of their own back, is what Mike's saying. Otherwise, he would have just been killed.
If he was an agent and the CCP got him, you'd think, well, yeah, they're gonna.
You don't want to deport him because he continued to do problems.
But this is kind of not on topic, but it kind of is. The Asian guy AI thing that's come about, who's doing all the silver videos. This guy comes out of nowhere, and obviously it's all AI created content with this fake Asian guy. And some of the videos, I mean, everyone's like conspiracy about what's happening in silver. It's all occulted knowledge. But, again, goes from nowhere to like 30,000 views, 50,000 views a video. Everybody's been sharing it with me. I've never had so many videos on metal shared with me, and yet it's all AI content from Asian guy. And I thought, I'm going to listen to one of these things just to see what the hell's going on. And I was listening to the video, and it said, the gold price moved up last week by 480,000 dried status. And it said, 480,000 dried status. So, yeah, it's all AI content. But I think this is the new face of misinformation. It's going to be getting topics people are really interested in and just creating these AI accounts that, just give them, 90% information that they could have found elsewhere and then 10% disinformation. And I've got a rule, right? If it's AI speaking to me, I ain't listening.
No,
it's not happening. If you create an AI, if you send me an AI video to listen to, I ain't listening to it. I'm not interested.
Well, on that point, if you send me an AI video, I'm no longer listening to you. Like the person, and I've had listeners sent it to me. Some fellow alt media people have posted it on their channel, and then I shared it without realizing initially, because it was the first time that it happened. I'm like, I unshared it, and there's no. I think the important point here is there's no responsibility or accountability, because I don't know who's behind the AI.
It's anonymous.
It's an AI. There's no, I don't know, and then there's no human vetting the information. Like, I'm vetting the stuff that I put out, if someone tells me I did something wrong, I can apologize. Oh, I was wrong. Let me correct it. And with AI, there's no accountability.
Well, look at the garbage on Substack. How many top best-selling accounts are literally just complete ChatGPT created articles? It's insane. And I can't believe people are consuming this stuff.
Books,
you know.
Sorry, just one more point. I get messages from, so I think somebody is using AI to generate Substack profiles and websites, and they're trying to make money, and they're like, oh, I just created this Geopolitics Substack, and then everything is AI generated. They're not doing any work, and then I get these DMs because they see Geopolitics and Empire. I have this new Substack account. Can you share it or whatever? And I'm like, delete, block, get away from me, you know?
Do you guys worry at all that the AI tools will make people so efficient that you could never keep up if you don't?
That's already happened, Monica. I can't get out more than one article a week. Because it takes me about 30 hours to complete an article. And I use AI to check the spelling and grammar of certain bits because I can't proofread something that I've done that much time on. But anyone can read my articles and say, "Oh, that's Mike. That's Mike's work." Nobody else is even talking about some of that stuff. But you go to one of these other big accounts in finance; they're doing an article a day, and it's clearly AI trash. And obviously, people are not discerning enough. That's the problem. They don't have discernment. They look at it
it'll
and
probably get better too.
And they're also using AI now to do their notes. So they're posting like 15 notes a day, all AI created. And how can you, as an independent content creator, keep up with that if you're producing one a week? People say, oh, I only get one article a week from this guy. I get 15 from this guy.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be people. It's like with organic food or GMO food. I think correct me if I'm wrong, I think there's going to be people who are like, I'm not consuming this AI content. I'm not going to, like I said, there are elements where you can use it in terms of productivity, but and in terms of content, I'm not going to read an AI book or listen. Like,
I'm just worried even as tools. Like I don't use the tools. I don't plan on using the tools.
That's another point I want to mention. But like Macro Butler, who I've had on, he puts out these weekly summaries, which are AI bots. He creates a podcast from AI bots. I cannot listen to it. I need to know the name of the person. If I'm going to listen to a podcast, I need to know a name. Like, I need to know who it's a human being. Who are they? What's their background? So I can gauge the quality of their content. And but Matt Smith did a great write-up that freaked me out the other day. He was looking at it from the productivity angle, where he spent a weekend learning the AI tools, and he created like a dashboard. That's a completely different subject. And in that regard, that does kind of freak me out. And I want to start learning how to use the AI tools in terms of productivity. For just one more example, in my weekly analysis, shout out to my paid subscriber, whoever they are. I was thinking there's some content I must listen to on YouTube, right? Podcasts and other stuff, but YouTube caps the speed at 2x. And sometimes I listen beyond 2x. I'm a little crazy. and I was thinking of purchasing the YouTube Premium to get to, because with the Premium, then you can listen to 3, 4x. I won't go 4x, but I can do sometimes 2.5. And I was almost going to drop money. And my paid subscriber who listens to my weekly analysis says, oh, there's an add-on for Google Chrome or Brave. And I just used it. I was like, whoa, you just saved me money. It will, on Brave, you put the add-on, any video you play in Brave. It could be YouTube X. It's you can play it at any speed you want. And I think that's an example of AI productivity that can help. So I can now consume more content, learn, get smarter, and then output more stuff.
I agree with that 100%. I think the technologies, like we're all using technologies every day, and you can't help it because without that, we couldn't be doing this now without technologies. I once had someone email me and sent me a real rant email saying, I can't believe you use Zoom because of what Zoom represents. And I'm like, I can't, why even waste your time? Just go live in your cave. You know what I mean?
But that's the problem. You're disenfranchising people, like metaphorically. If you tell them to take what's called the Benedict option in Catholicism, you can save yourself, but you and your descendants and your entire society will go on without you. And I'm not, I can't make that decision for my kids. And also, that's what Big T they want. They want you to they want you to self opt out. And I, I don't think the technology is going away.
I mean, it always comes back to discernment, right? You can use a tool discerningly. Like I use, all kinds of tools. If I can make myself more productive, I will do it because we all spend a ton of time. I mean, I don't think most people realize just how much goes into creating podcasts and videos and uploading and writing articles, dealing with the emails. It's a ton. And if you are independent, you're doing most of it yourself. Like you're not hiring anyone to do those things for you. So tools are important. But if somebody is literally just, creating trash, and it's up to the readers and listeners too, because if somebody's producing something that is literally just telling you what you already know in some dramatic way, it's not research. It's garbage. It literally is garbage. And people should have more self-respect too. I mean, if I see a content creator doing that, I am not going on their show. I'm not doing an interview. I had one guy reach out to me and I read it. It was all AI. I was like, no, I'm not contributing because, we put time and effort into what we do, and you're putting out slop.
Now we need two levels of discernment. One is AI slop, but then of the organic creators, such as we are, there's that whole hijacked alt media fed faction. And they're the ones who do have resources to create the organic content. So it's tough. It's tough out there. That's okay.
As always, take what's good and leave what's not, and don't trust anybody.
Yeah, and we'll all just keep on keeping on, and we'll see if people jump to AI and I no longer get financial support. I'll go disappear. So I
lost a lot of listeners when I was like, yeah, Trump doesn't defend the Bill of Rights. People really hated me and didn't get on the key thing.
But I, you
and I knew I'd come back around because I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm right. So.
But sorry, one more thing on the AI. One thing that's happening, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, there's people like ourselves who have been content creators. Now they're creating an AI version of themselves, and it looks like them, but it's just a little bit smoother, and they're typing it in or getting AI to write the script. So has anyone seen that Susan Kokoda? Her videos are everywhere. She's like, yeah, so they're taking real people, and real people are doing this to themselves, and they're creating AI versions of themselves, and then getting AI to release the video with their own.
No, I can never. I just couldn't do that. I couldn't. It's just.
I don't think people even realize, right?
That's crossing like a boundary, because then it's like, what does it mean to be human? Integrity, but it's like not being human. That's like transhumanism.
That's what it is.
But I still believe that there's going to be enough people that listen to Monica Perez, Perla Mike, Geopolitics, and Empire, be like, they're anti-globalist, they're anti-technocracy, they're anti-transhumanism. They're like, I'm not going to consume a podcast that's not organic, right?
Yeah, and you want real. That's what it's all about. It's going back to what's real, right? You want real connection, not these fake ones. You want real people. What's not like a real researcher is going to mess up sometimes. And that's good because it means that they're actually, they're trying, doing the best.
Yes, I actually, in one of these things, there's like somebody did something wrong, put the tile in wrong, whatever. And I was like, you know what? Someday there will be no mistakes anywhere ever. Like a human being did this, and I'm okay with it.
that kind of, that real quick, that makes me think of my life philosophy, where I've born in America, lived in Switzerland, and I don't like when I don't like utopia.
Yeah.
When it's too perfect, like Switzerland,
Matrix.
It was too expensive, but still, it's like too perfect. I like where there's mistakes and chaos. I like Mongolia. I like Mexico.
Well, that's how you have freedom, because when it's perfect, people scrutinize and they look for the imperfection. I knew somebody who lived in Switzerland, and I think he was saying that someone climbed in his window to I don't know. He's like, he left his window open when he went out, and they closed the window, or they took his recycling out, or somebody went into his apartment because he was breaking a rule. And he was German, so he was kind of okay with it. But I was like,
I was in Zurich visiting someone long ago, and the grass, it was like their lawn, and the grass was perfect, impeccable. And I had a chewing gum, And whatever. I just thought, chewing gum, it's biodegradable.
Yeah, why not?
I think I spit it out on the grass, and someone said, "Don't, you can be fine." I'm like, what? Well, what kind of?
Yes. And those rules, which someone in Switzerland told me about, I was visiting somebody in Johns Creek, Atlanta, outside Atlanta, and they had the same rules. They're international rules about like shrubbery and landscaping and stuff. Like, watch out for that, because that's another thing. Every little thing under control, but not us. We are dissident.
And just even on books, I'm finally interviewing Alfred McCoy next week.
Wow! Wow!
Thank you, William Ramsey. But I haven't even read his first book, Politics at Heron.
Oh my gosh, my brother was a Vietnam vet and came back a junkie, and he absolutely loved that Alfred McCoy.
Yeah.
And my daughter's doing a thesis on Alfred McCoy's book. You might have to tell him that you have like a multi-generational super fan.
I will.
That please.
I will. But I am reading his latest book, which he says is kind of like almost like he says a sequel or summary of this first one. I'm reading it on Kindle, but my point was, talking about AI and everything, I've just gotten to the point, I know some people listen to books, right? And it's faster, but I cannot even bring myself to listen to an audiobook. I'm like,
or even read it on a Kindle.
I have to physically read it.
100.
Or digital version, whatever. I'm still reading it, but I cannot listen to books. I don't know.
You have a relationship with it. You want to turn back the pages. You want to see your references. You want to make annotations. You want to put little tabs in it. Yes, I totally agree.
Monica, we don't write in books over here. We keep them nice and neat, nice and flat. No writing, no annotations.
Use a pencil. Come on. I know I was raised not to, but you have to. I have bought 2 copies of the same book so I could write in one and keep the other.
I've done that before.
I don't have that kind of money.
Well, we're all the same. We all like our books. We all like our reality, even if it's a messy one. And I think I think we are going to see like 2 separate tracks of humanity. There's going to be the ones that go deeper into this fake synthetic world, digital world, transhumanism. And there's going to be those who say, no, I like the world as it is, even if it's messy. I like reality. And that's hopefully where our podcast will come in. Real people with real characters, not these AI drones.
Yeah, for as long as, they don't come and take us away.
I'll tell you
the last word, her boy.
I'll tell you one book I definitely won't highlight is G. Edward Griffin's 5th edition Creature from Jekyll Island that was sent to me by G. Edward Griffin himself.
Wow.
That I will not highlight.
Wow.
Well, I've got my preparation book that's signed by Matt Smith, Maxim Smith, and Doug Casey, which was for me just the ultimate. And also, I'm off to see Joel Salatin in person, so I'm going to get him to sign my book too.
I can't believe you interviewed Joel Salatin. That is so perfect for you.
Whilst we're name dropping, Joel was like a big one for me because in terms of farming and regenerative agriculture, he's the man. And he's such a cool guy. Like, he was so nice. He's very generous with his time. And I really liked Joel. I've always liked his character. You come away from listening to Joel feeling a little bit better about the world.
Yeah, a human being, a real classy human being. There is no substitute. So, speaking of no substitutes, I am the Monica Perez of the Monica Perez Show, and joined by...
Stay human, everyone. Hoodway from Geopolitics and Empire.
This is the real, live, non-AI version of Parallel Mike of the Parallel Systems Substack.
Until next time, thanks for listening.